Here's another special edition, a Red Hot Express edition of some of my favourite bits and pieces and conversations from the last year of the ChrissieCast.
When we put sort of expectations on ourselves or on each other to sort of behave a certain way, or you end up. I mean, I just finished watching. In one day, I watched Baby Reindeer. Did you see that?
Oh yes, I did.
I connected so deeply with his journey of shame. And there were so many moments where I was so infuriated watching this guy have no boundaries with people. And then as you grow the story and understand that this shame is sort of that he's carrying, that's this invisible kind of straitjacket. I was like, oh my God, the answer is just like, what if we all just had a little bit less shame about ourselves and learned to just be like...
It's so interesting because I watched that. Everybody watched that show and I watched it too. And all the headlines after it was about the woman.
Of course.
And she's the least interesting character in the entire thing.
Yeah.
And I love that you mentioned him because obviously, I related to him too. And the element that I loved was how he kept on trying to make her feel okay, even though he was being so mistreated. Yeah. That really spoke to me. I was like, I would do exactly the same thing because, I just want to make everything okay for that person.
Well, which actually is a beautiful, healthy instinct, but because of the shame in his life, he didn't have the healthy boundary to be able to do that in a way that was healthy for both of them.
Yeah.
So it's like, because I think like the answer is not he should have just been like, get the fuck away. Like, no, it's actually a beautiful gesture to be kind to someone.
Yeah. It felt very human to me.
You can do it in a way that you also have healthy boundaries.
I know. Him going to her house and looking through the window, I was like,
crazy.
That is, but it's a hard relate. I would do that.
So I'm
too curious.
I'm working with a playwright friend of mine. We've written a TV show idea that actually began with that Requiem meeting.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And we've just sort of been we just got development funding for it. Who knows what'll happen, but we're in the world of like, just trying to tell my story basically. And in that same sort of, so Baby Reindeer was a very like, I just related on so many. I mean, my story is so different to his, but I just related on so many levels to this idea of this poor guy sneaking around.
Me too. Now, Ben.
Yes.
It's time.
Okay.
Will you please perform?
It would be my pleasure.
Requiem. And I promise you I won't cry. But my fingers are crossed, so maybe I will.
Write us a song, they said. Tell us your truth, you've got nothing to hide. We'll tell them the truth I did and exposed what I had locked inside. I laid it out across the floor and cried. So it went down like the poet described, and they reached for their children and covered their eyes. This was not a song for angry men. What I wrote for them was a requiem. Go on and run, she sighed. I wish you could see all the things that I see. Well, here on the other side, it feels the same as when I was 19. I should have read up on my Augustine. I ran for the corner the poet described, and I stood in the sun and I saw myself die. I was so afraid of angry men. What I wrote for them was a requiem. This is something to remember me by. 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 Remember me. Remember me.
That is my favourite thing that has ever happened on this podcast.
That is, well, thank you.
Ben Abraham, I can't even speak. Ben Abraham, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. This is, what an honour.
Now, the Assembly.
Yes, sorry.
In your own words again.
Yes.
The Assembly is people asking whatever they like, no questions are off limits.
Yes.
So let's try some. Leigh Sales, how much money do you have in dollars and cents?
That was a question that got asked of Hamish Blake. Could anyone do it to the cents? I mean, I don't think so.
Also, like, it depends on what direct debits are coming out. It depends on what you owe. Who knows?
Do you have any cash in that bum bag of yours?
Not a penny. I haven't had
Me
cash
either.
for years.
Same. Yeah, not at all.
It's terrible.
In fact, I didn't even bring anything down to Melbourne other than my phone. I didn't bring any cards at all.
Oh, see, I have a little folder in here with all my cards just in case
Phone goes flat.
it doesn't work. Yeah. When was the last time you had a proper pash?
Oh, not that long ago.
Good.
I don't want to go into too many details.
No,
but
you
yeah,
must not go into
recently.
details. Good.
Yeah.
Good news. Do your toenails look like something that you would find on a hobbit?
Yes.
Mine too.
Somewhere between Hobbit and acceptable. Not full-scale Hobbit, but not great.
Are they painted?
No.
You're a
They're a
disgrace.
mess.
What is the most shameful thing you've served up and called dinner?
Oh, like packet fish fingers and just stuff like that.
You know what you can do to zhuzh that up in no time? Let me
What?
tell you, because I'm the shortcut queen.
Yeah.
All right? I also love a fish finger, but sometimes I elevate them to the sort of slightly wedge-shaped fillets. They're fish fingers. They're just a bit bigger. You cook them exactly the same way, and then you get your tortillas
Oh.
and you chop them up and a bit of chipotle, and then you've got a fish taco.
Annabelle Crabb does that.
Does she?
She does, yep.
She's
Fancy,
such
you
a
two.
smug
Fancy.
bunt.
Such a smug bunt.
When you imagine yourself at 70, what is the image that you can conjure?
I like to think smiling, having a great time, and for me, and so I don't judge anyone else, having a wrinkly, lived-in face.
And grey hair?
That's a good question. I think at age 51, I feel like yes, but you better ask me at 69. I reckon I might feel differently as I get closer.
I just feel like I'm not ready to let it go yet. I love all the, Nivea and Dove campaigns with all
Same.
this beautiful grey hair, but I'm just not ready.
I also don't think I'm going to have beautiful grey hair. I think I'm going to have really foul, nondescript grey hair.
The frizz is real.
I'll still have to get colour put in my hair to make it look like nice grey hair.
Absolutely, me too. That blue, the purple shampoo. Thank you so much for joining me, Leigh Sales. I know you've got a plane to catch.
It's been so fun. Thank you for having me.
I am thrilled to welcome to the ChrissieCast Sir
you.
Bob Geldof.
I'm mad.
I want to start with, I'm so desperate for you to like me.
Yep.
And
well, you'd arranged to sort of pretend you just got into the lift when I got in. I mean, it's kind of sad. You know,
I've been following you all morning.
Yeah, absolutely. Stalking me at the Melbourne Cup. You know?
I have, tried to research as much as I can, and I have found that I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I found the bigger the name, the more bullshit there is written about them
Absolutely.
on the internet.
Yeah.
So forgive me if I say something that is just like, this is not true. You have said that, well, I hope you have, because you've also intimated, so I think this is true. People think I'm scruffy. Well, I am. A 7-year-old boy is not going to wash his clothes. He's just not. I am that person.
Yeah.
And I heard that and I went, maybe I've got this theory that who we are as a child, like we're born the way we are, and life sort of takes us away from that original person, the person that we're supposed to be. What did Bob Geldof like to do in his heart and soul when he was a little boy?
Well, you are a blank canvas. You've inherited a bunch of genes that will determine some characteristics, i.e. the way you look, some behaviour, as we now know. But the most of it is cultural or societal and what forms you. So that's Freudian. We know that, always a psychiatrist will go to formative things in your experience. What did I like? It was a function of the conditions of my life, which very early weren't great. I mean, I'm not playing a fiddle here. I didn't really think much about it at the time. Retrospectively, I feel sorry for that little boy, but not at the time. It just was what it was. So as you pointed out, no one was going to do the washing. That was because my mum was dead, and my dad, as I said, went away. No fault of his own. He had no choice. There was no economy in Ireland. It was the only job he could get. So it was myself and sisters. The oldest sister was 17. She was not going to be a surrogate mother to her bratish little brother, and she got out quickly. And
so what's the age difference between you and your sisters?
Between my eldest one was about 8 to 10 years, I think. My middle one was 5 or 6 years. She was the school geek. She stayed in school. The nuns gave her food, and so I'd come back to the house and make my own dinner and stuff like that. And it was.
What did you
mainly
cook?
I remember it being freezing.
What does a child cook?
Pardon?
What does a child cook?
That's good. Well, whatever was in the cupboard, there was no fridge or TV or telephone because we didn't have money. So what I remember cooking for myself, what I really liked not cooking, but I really liked eating, was rice with an OXO cube dissolved in the water. I sort of worked this out myself, plus a bit of bacon sliced up and put into the water, which gave it a smoky flavour. And then when that was cooked, I'd fry an egg and put it on top of it. So it was kind of egg fried rice,
Yeah, it's sort of a nasi goreng risotto.
Well, not without the peanutty thing going on in the stuff. So yeah, I remembered that, and I guess though for lunch there was a scam going on because mothers would never allow their kids to have sugar sandwiches, which is basically uncooked bread and butter pudding, So I would make, sugar sandwiches, and it's bread, butter, sugar. And knowing that the guys, wanted this, I'd make 6 sandwiches for myself every morning before going to school. And
12 pieces of bread?
Yeah,
okay. And
I'd swap them then because they all wanted it. So I'd swap one sugar sandwich was worth 1 tomato or 1 egg sandwich. So 2 sandwiches for one ham and thing. So I was the king of sandwiches in school, stuff like that. So yeah, it was all right. I mean, I worked my way. The point is, to your point, at that age, because of this, you become very self-reliant, very independent, and very organised,
Yeah.
So the the adjunct to what you said is that I was always scruffy. Yes, but I had a tidy mind.
Yeah.
And that's the mistake people make, because this shambling oaf wanders into a meeting and he sits there apparently not listening and scratching and looking around and being distracted and doodling non-stop, not looking at anyone. But I'm listening intently. That's what I do unconsciously. And they're going, and in political meetings in particular. But I remember getting the Order of the Nile, second class, from the president of the Sudan, who is, of course, inevitably some cockamamie general who'd taken over the day before, sort of thing. And they were giving me this medal, which is an amazing thing. It's this blaze of gold, silver and ivory and ceramic on my chest. And I walked in. I will not go into these meetings without journalists to make a record, because I don't want to be nailed for being, not saying the right thing or pulling up these leaders on an amnesty report or anything. And so the general walks over to the smartest looking general, or the smartest looking journalist, says, Mr. Geldof, so-and-so, so-and-so, and the journalist just pointed at me, and you could see the guy going, him?
That guy?
I was there in my sneakers and jeans that hadn't been washed and hair all over the place. I'd just come out of the desert, so I was a mess, and he kind of just slapped it on my chest and said, off you go. That sort of thing happens. So it's a useful device when it comes to those sort of things.
Do you think sometimes a rough childhood or discomfort in childhood is a good thing?
No, I'm not convinced by that. It messes you up. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not, there's deep anger in me, and my animus is rage. My response to something that I think is unfair is rage. I temper it because I'm old. But when the band started, the Rats, that howl of anger, that is our early music, which powered us up the charts because that's what people felt. They were disenfranchised. Britain had 27% inflation when we arrived in England. 27%. I mean, what? Everything you buy is 27% more expensive. Therefore, your wage is 27% less.
Yeah.
That's not possible to live.
And a lot of people couldn't afford it when it was 27% less at that time as well.
Absolutely, they couldn't. So, where's the future? What's the future for the young? Ireland had a zero economy, viz. My father, and so when we came of age, there was nothing for us. That's a form of treason by a government when they cannot give their young a future. And, New York was bankrupt. New York, the great city, had declared bankruptcy. So it's not a mistake that out of New York you get the Ramones, out of Ireland you get the Boomtown Rats, out of the UK you get the Clash and the Sex Pistols, and we all meet at this fulcrum of anger and demand change. That's the purpose of rock and roll in my time. And, all of us had the same thing. This is crap. The first thing you heard Johnny Rotten say was, I'm the Antichrist, I'm an anarchist, there is no future in England's dreaming. That's brilliant. Joe Strummer of The Clash, I want a riot of my own. Bob Geldof, the first thing you heard him say was, the world owes me a living. I don't want to be like you, I'm going to be like me. And so this blast, so it found itself at the right moment, at the right time, expressed through this really good band. And I was lucky, but it's still the thing. And where I will agree with you, if you've had bad luck when you were a kid in your upbringing, then I think you recognise, you're very alert to it happening around you. You're very alert to people on the street. You're very alert to what the news is telling you, because pathetically you associate your own conditions with that, and that would be conditions of it's not right, it's injustice. And, we had no money, and it's crap. Poverty is crap. Greed is not good. Greed is stupid. And so all of those things that you imbibe, but you're not aware they're informing you. You just get on with your life in the best possible way you can. I just got into a rock and roll band at a period when rock and roll was the lingua franca of the planet, the common language. It wasn't English, it was pop music. And everyone could understand pop music, and so it seemed logical to me to talk to the world in this common language through through this new medium of satellites about a common problem of 32 million people dying unnecessarily of hunger.
Do you believe that the timing of the Boomtown Rats was perfect because you learnt to express your anger, be the voice of a whole generation of furious people?
It's luck, timing and talent. But rock and roll and technology go hand in hand. You can't get Elvis and Little Richard unless you have the transistor. And the transistor was the means to the glue of the Pax Americana. American troops were all over the world. How did they stick together? Through the transistor, this new thing. And what was the music that first utilised that? Elvis and Little Richard, who weren't allowed into the American dream because they were on the wrong side of the tracks. But, Elvis, young, beautiful, force of nature, brilliant understanding of, his time. Little Richard, young, black, gay, beautiful. He was never going to get on telly. But here they come. The Beatles were the function of television. Britain gets TV for the first time, and here are these working class boys who don't even understand the word deference. So when they meet monarchies and prime ministers, they're just laughing. They don't understand that your hair has to be this way. Well, we want it this way, and they laugh the whole time. Or the Rolling Stones, contemptuous insolence. They'd sort of wander on stage picking their noses. No concession to show business at all, And so you go forward and, you get the punk thing with satellites and stuff like that. And then you get the death of rock and roll with the internet and the web.
Bob Geldof, we're being wrapped up, but I could talk to you forever. Thank you so much for your time today. Gosh, haven't we had a lovely time? I'll see you back here next week for a few more highlights that you might not have heard. Have a great week. Remember your water. Get a good night's sleep.